So when Eala plays, we all get together and we all watch her support her as a group of people.
So incredible. This is my first time in Doha, so thank you guys.
We pay only when Alex plays.
So the year subscription, just in case.
The monthly.
Oh, the monthly.
You only pay when she plays. It's paid to play.
Get the yearly. Yo, it's $77. I love the honesty.
Those 7 words came from a Filipino fan standing inside the BNP Paribas Open on March 7th, 2026, said directly to tournament officials at Indian Wells, not whispered, not posted anonymously online, spoken out loud on the record to the people who run the event. And what Alex Eala herself said hours later, still fighting back tears on court, revealed why 115 million people have turned one 20-year-old into the most powerful ticket in women's tennis. Here is the question: will Eala's fans eventually fall in love with tennis itself, or will they keep showing up exclusively for her? Drop your answer in the comments. Eala had just clawed through a 3-set war against Aryna Sabalenka, 7-5, 4-6, 7-5, in a late-night Indian Wells thriller where every point sounded like a football stadium. Outside the venue, hundreds waited in line for autographs while she was still cooling down. This was not a Grand Slam final. This was a round of 64 match featuring the world number 32. And across the grounds, other courts sat half empty. That contrast is the story the WTA cannot ignore. Indian Wells this week drew backlash over new ticketing rules that left Stadium 2 looking barren during early rounds. Top 10 players walked onto court to scattered applause and visible gaps in the stands. The world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka, 11 wins and 1 loss on the year, fresh off a dominant 6-4, 6-2 second-round victory, noted the crowd energy herself, remarking how many seats were full on a Friday. She was grateful for the turnout she received. Now consider what was happening simultaneously on Eala's court. Standing room only, flags draped over every railing, fans who had driven hours from Los Angeles, San Diego, and the Inland Empire. 2 million Filipinos live in California alone, filling a venue to capacity for a player ranked 31 spots below Sabalenka. The world number 1 had to acknowledge the crowd showing up. The world number 32 could not make them leave. This pattern did not begin at Indian Wells. It started accelerating in Dubai 3 weeks earlier, and tournament director Salah Tahlak confirmed it publicly.
We did like something like $53 million over 3 days, over like in 72 hours, and it was really great.
The stadium was sold out for all her matches, Tahlak said. People were desperately trying to get tickets. We have never seen anything like it. A tournament director, someone who has hosted every major name in women's tennis, admitting that a player outside the top 30 generated demand he had never witnessed. That is not fan enthusiasm. That is market disruption. The numbers off the court are even more staggering. At the Australian Open in January, Eala's pre-tournament press conference pulled 171,000 views on YouTube. Sabalenka's drew 9,000. The world number 1, 3-time Grand Slam champion, the most dominant force in the women's game, was outdrawn 19-1 before a single ball was struck, not by a rival champion, by a 20-year-old who had never reached a Slam quarterfinal. Then came March 7th, and the quote that crystallized everything. A fan at Indian Wells, speaking to officials, and later quoted in Philstar, delivered the line that is now echoing through every WTA boardroom. We pay only when Alex plays. That is not casual fandom. That is exclusive economic loyalty, an entire demographic telling the sport in plain language that their wallets open for one name and close for everyone else. Fellow players see it too. After Coco Gauff defeated Eala in the Dubai quarterfinals, Gauff stood at the press podium and said something remarkable.
I know you guys are probably here for Alex, so I'm sorry to...
I would like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport. I feel like it is great for the sport to have this atmosphere. The player who won the match credited the player who lost it, not for her tennis, but for what she brings to every arena she enters. Goff recognized that Eala's crowd was not just cheering for a result, they were announcing their presence in a sport that had never seen them before. And after that grueling Indian Wells victory over Yastremska, 3 sets, nearly 2.5 hours, temperatures dropping into the desert cold, Eala found a microphone and her voice cracked. "It means the world to have this community behind me," she said.
Stay up late and stay in the cold and cheer me on. So
Stay up late and stay in the cold and cheer me on. It really added to the feelings and the emotions after the match. She was not performing gratitude. She was overwhelmed by it. You could hear in her voice that the crowd was not background noise to her. They were the reason she fights through third sets at 11 o'clock at night. If you have been saying for months that this phenomenon was real, that the energy around Eala was something tennis had never experienced, every tournament director, every analyst, and every fellow player on tour is now confirming what you already knew. Steve Johnson spent over a decade on the ATP Tour, climbed inside the top 20, and played in front of the biggest crowds in professional tennis. He now co-hosts the Nothing Major podcast, one of the most respected independent voices in the sport. On February 25th, 2026, Johnson said what no one else in media had the courage to say out loud.
Is she bigger than Sabalenka? Is she bigger than Coco? Is she the biggest draw in women's tennis?
Is she bigger than Sabalenka? Is she bigger than Coco? Yes, dude, it is crazy. Standing room only. The insane crowds all over the world. A man who has lived inside those arenas, who knows what a big crowd feels like because he has played in front of them for years, is declaring that the number 32 player in the world is the single biggest draw in women's tennis, not trending toward it, already there. What Eala represents is something the WTA has never had to reckon with, a player whose cultural gravity exceeds her ranking by an order of magnitude. Every tournament she enters becomes an economic event. Every tournament she skips risks half-empty stands. The Miami Open is next. Then come the clay court swing and Roland Garros. Tournament directors from Strasbourg to Eastbourne are watching Indian Wells and Dubai and asking the same question: how do we get Alex Eala in our draw? The deeper question is whether these fans convert into permanent tennis audiences or remain exclusively loyal to one player. And Eala herself seems aware of the stakes. "I have only dreamed of making tennis grow in the Philippines," she said on March 7th. "And now I am bringing a whole new audience to tennis all around the world." She is not just playing for results, she is playing for a movement. 3 weeks before Indian Wells, that movement watched Eala lose 0-6, 2-6 to Goff in Dubai, a double bagel in a quarterfinal in front of the same roaring Filipino crowd that had carried her through the draw. She responded not with excuses but with public gratitude, thanking the fans who stayed, thanking the opponent who outplayed her. 7 days later, she was back on court at Indian Wells, winning a 3-set marathon in the desert cold. Dubai sold out. The Australian Open press room flooded. Indian Wells turned into a Filipino festival on a Thursday night in March, and a fan looked at tournament officials and told them without hesitation, the truth the entire sport is now forced to confront. We pay only when Alex plays. Steve Johnson called her bigger than Sabalenka. Goff thanked her for changing the game, and Eala stood on court with tears in her eyes, proving that the connection between her and her people is not a marketing campaign. It is something no ranking can measure and no opponent can take away. Here is the question: will Eala's fans eventually fall in love with tennis itself? Or will they keep showing up exclusively for her? And is that loyalty a gift to the sport or a problem the WTA does not know how to solve? Drop your answer in the comments. If you recognize this phenomenon before the analysts and the tournament directors caught on, you belong here. This channel tracks the story as it unfolds. Indian Wells this week, Miami later this month, and every chapter after that. Subscribe so you are in the room when the next wave hits.